Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on, it's time for us to get some motivation, inspiration, get some fire me up message that when I'm going through my next trials and tribulation, I can use that to move forward. And like always, pay it forward, Bubba. Don't hold it. Don't take it along with you. Use whatever you can and help the person ahead of you. All right, let's pay it forward. All right, today we're going to talk, about it could be a dark issue for some people, but hopefully we can give you good information, get out there and help other people and do. But it's schizophrenia. And I had a good friend. He has schizophrenia. And so, but our guest, he's been able to recover with his schizophrenia, and he's been able to bike across Canada, not once, but twice. Welcome to the show. Let me click this button right here. Matthew Dickson.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is amazing. Thank you.
You'll be disappointed when we get done, but right now we have fun. So, yeah. So, all right, Matthew. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I had
sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, well, you said amazing being here or something like that, and I said you'll be disappointed when we're done. So, hopefully not, but we'll go from there. But I had a friend. We grew up together, friends for the longest. And he's schizophrenic, and he's one of them. As long as he's on the medication, he's as good as can be and everything.
Wow.
But then all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, I don't know why I'm taking this. I'm not having no problems." And he'll get off his medication and be off within 3 weeks. Next thing you know, he's doing stupid stuff, gotten in trouble, and of course they got to get him back on his medication. Take a month, 2 months to get it regulated. And then a year later, I don't know why I'm taking this medicine. You're taking the medicine to keep you where you're at. But no, he'll jump off again. So, all right, that's enough of me, Matthew. But I do have a little bit of the schizophrenia. I don't know a lot about it, just know with that one friend of mine. So, all right, Matthew, you go ahead and this is your time to shine. You jump us in on the platform. You start us where we need to be at, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this. Your friend, like I wasn't like that. So like when I muddled through. I'm from New Brunswick, Canada, on the East Coast, and I lived in a small town growing up. And when I went off to university, I just didn't sort of feel right. And through like my 5 years of university, I was taking engineering. I had sort of a small symptom creep up each year. But this was the early 90s. I didn't know much about mental illness. I knew about sort of psychology and mental health, but I didn't know about depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, schizophrenia, eating disorders. I just didn't know about that.
So I had these symptoms. A silent disease.
Oh yeah,
Back then, it was definitely a silent disease. Back then, yeah.
Oh yeah. I know it's crazy how much things have changed. So yeah, so I got on I was able to bike across Canada during university on my bicycle, not motorbike. I bicycled across, and I was just so happy about that. But I had these symptoms creep up. Like I was still doing well in school. I was getting good marks, living on my own independently, paying for all my education with my summer jobs. And I could bike across Canada, sort of not feeling the best. But when the disease hit, finally, it hit hard. And in 1994, I went into the hospital. I went to get help, and they, after a couple months, maybe of trying me on some of the older 1960s antipsychotics, I got on one that had just come out that year in 94. So I noticed a small improvement each week. So the whole, like to your friend, but with the whole thing about going on, that was not me. I understand how. I mean, I was 22. I just biked across Canada 2 years earlier. I wanted to, make the most of my life, whatever that looked like. Right. Although I didn't really have any sort of specific goals for my life. And anyway, so I felt like I was ball and chain to this medication, but at the same time, I was like, get that drug into me, because it was something I could actually do, in my day to help get me better. And I noticed an improvement every single week for 27 years. I noticed a small, these were glacially slow improvements, but it sort of felt, I mean, I'm no neuroscientist, and this is, I'm sure, a wrong analogy, but it sort of felt like in my brain, all the neural pathways that weren't working, I was sort of hacking my way through the jungle, and I finally broke through, and I got to the other side and cleared all the jungle growth away, and my brain's doing pretty well now. Like I'm no Navy SEAL. I'm not bulletproof upstairs.
There you go.
But I feel pretty darn good.
Well, I would sure love to be
and then
Navy SEAL, man.
2023,
those some real men. I was just saying, I would love to be a Navy SEAL. Yeah, they're real men, boy. So, this friend of mine now, he was like in his early teenage years that he was diagnosed. Early teenage years.
That's when the disease hits guys, usually like late teens, early 20s. Women, it can hit later, sort of like late 20s, but it's not set in stone. You can have a girl get it at like 12. So it's it's called youth's greatest disabler. I was lucky because it didn't hit me until I'd left my home. I was living on my own, paying for my way, got almost all my education of my degree. And but other people, like if it hits at say 16 something before you have entered the world, you've got to go through schizophrenia in its hardest years. Like with treatment, it can come down to more manageable levels. But when the disease hits, it's, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, it's very disabling. And if you don't have all those life skills already, you've got to learn all those life skills while you're going through this disease. So, yeah, but it's not. I'm sure it's not impossible. I'm sure there's people out there who got it at 16 and went out and did their thing, and they're doing well today. That's one stat I want to share. Is a guy from England told me about this recently, and I never knew this. I was looking for this stat for like decades. I share the link on my website. It's from the World Health Organization, and they say at least 30% of people with schizophrenia globally have complete remission of their symptoms. 30%, at least 30%. Yeah. So it hits 1% of the population globally. So that's about 80 million people. So there's hope. People can recover from the disease. I'm still on medication, and you're going to have a hard time getting me off it. I mean, when I first got on the medication, I felt like ball and chain to it, and my life is awful. I was depressed. I couldn't think positively. But now that I'm, doing well and feeling good, I'm like, well, all I have to do is pop a pill. Isn't that like the ultimate solution to anything?
It is today, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. So it's
Well, that's amazing to me. I mean, like, I guess you would say you were late in life, being diagnosed at 22. Okay. Like I said, my friend was early teenage, and so, but you already had, most of your life already under control. So now this is just something to help manage you. Now, when you went to go look for help for this and went to the hospital, what were some of the symptoms you were going, something just ain't right with me? I got to get this looked at.
Yeah, the final one was I was starting to have some suicidal thoughts. So I said, well, that's not good. I better get this checked out. So that was sort of the final one. But other things that I had were like, I felt like I was watching the world on TV. Like I felt disconnected from my environment. I had blunted emotions. I couldn't think straight a lot of the time. But these symptoms were kind of mild compared to what was going to happen when the disease really hit hard. And I guess there's one of the symptoms is disorganized thinking. It's people with schizophrenia will tell you can think about things like in a straightforward, logical manner, but it's kind of like shouting into a tornado. like a lot of my sort of inner thoughts were more like almost like battle cries. It felt like I was watching, a war movie on TV with all the soldiers shooting at each other and yelling, because that's sort of what I had to do. Like my brain was telling me to, take my life, sort of thing, and I had to fight that. Like, no, Matthew, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. It's sort of battle in my head, and so that was one. So I could still think about things, but a lot of my thoughts were just disorganized. I've never done drugs, but someone who has done drugs told me that, Matthew, some of the symptoms that I tell them sound a bit like an acid trip. Not that I've ever done that, but it's just more, it's scary. There's I guess probably the two worst things are the emotions, just how intense the emotions are, just the fear, the anxiety. I had depression and anxiety as well, and just the terror that goes through you. And the other thing is that you get this sort of paralysis almost. It's so hard to move your body. Just to do all these things with my fingers here, I don't even know what I'm doing with my fingers. I'm wiggling them around, and I don't know which knuckle is moving in relation to which other knuckle. It's just to move my body in time and space was very difficult. And but I never hallucinated. So 25% of people with schizophrenia don't hallucinate. The other 75% do, and that can be any of the five senses. For the most part, they're pretty tormenting, but some people hallucinate, and it's actually quite pleasant. Like they see beautiful things in the sky and whatnot. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that friend of mine, he did do drugs, and I hadn't seen him in a while. I'm assuming he's still doing drugs with it. And he has been to the 75% where he'll hallucinate. I mean, he would call me at 4 a.m, and I got to get ready to go to work. And he'd call me and he's talking about somebody's after him, or he'd be talking about a three-legged ghost or something, after him, and where he hallucinated. Yeah. So he's in that 75% there, and it doesn't help with the drugs he takes with it, abuse. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hallucinations. I mean, I've never had them. I've talked to somebody who was not schizophrenic. He didn't have a mental illness, but he was in a lot of pain for a surgery, and the painkillers, whatever they were giving him, made him hallucinate. And hearing him talk about it, he said, Matt, I know they weren't real, but he said it was so intense, it felt like it was real. I was terrified. He had, like, in the hospital bed, he had all these like metallic bugs coming out of the wall, flying at him. And his mom had to sit beside him the whole time. And he's like, get them off me. So she had to pick these, non-existent bugs off him all night. It's they're pretty tormenting.
Just on the hallucination part here, but my mom, she's 85. About 4 years ago, she was in the hospital, and they wanted her to do an MRI, and she has dementia. And I'm going, how do you think with a woman with dementia is going to stay still in an MRI for 45 minutes? And they said, we'll give her this medication. I won't mention the medication here, but what they gave her made her hallucinate. And she's grabbing for butterflies. She's talking to her dead husband that died in 1981, sitting beside her in the bed. She's petting her dead dog, Gus, that's been dead for 20 years. And and they said they gave her a small amount. It took 3 days to get out of her system. So for that, we lost her for 3 days. Wow. But yeah, I would be more scared. Like you said, some hallucination wasn't the bad, evil stuff you say, the beautiful flowers, the beautiful whatever, the sunlight. I'd be more scared of that because I'd be worried I died. So at least the other one, I can try to defend myself and fight off, But the other beautiful thing, I'll be going, I'm dead. I'm in heaven. So that would be me. I don't know about everybody else, but that's what I would think would happen to me. All right. So what other statistics can you give us on this?
Yeah. So 1% of people globally have schizophrenia. I said that already. But the other one that is difficult.
See, I would have thought that number would be higher than 1%. And the only reason, I guess, when you say 1%, but then you say 80 million, then you're going, okay, that's a lot,
Yeah.
But I would have thought that number would have been higher than 1%. I would have thought.
Yeah. I've seen some stats where it's a bit above or below 1%, but it's around that number anyway. But you're right. Like they say stats like 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 people have a mental
Yeah,
illness. Well, that's 25%. So schizophrenia, it's yeah, you think it might be like more like 5% to make up more of that 20 or 25%. But yeah.
yeah. Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
so the hallucinations, my only sort of rationale for like why they happen and why they're so intense, sort of like for an analogy for someone who hasn't gone through them, including me, is like it's like your part of your brain that is dreaming, or like nightmares, I guess, really for most people, only it happens while you're awake. I mean, we all understand dreams, our dreams can be just wild, just
Yeah,
wild. And if your part of your brain is, I'm no neuroscientist, I don't know if this is how it works, but that's sort of my analogy. Like if your brain can do all those horrible things to you in a nightmare while you're asleep, well, it can do it sort of like when you're awake. It's that's my only analogy for people to sort of understand if they see someone who's acting out. Well, yeah, he's like, it's like, I don't know, maybe you could say like he's sleepwalking or something, having a nightmare. I don't know,
yeah.
but
I'm like you. I'm not a neurologist either, but just from my experience with that friend, is my input that I'm giving. Uh, I haven't researched or anything because I hadn't been around it much except for him.
yeah,
And you may be around it and not know it because the person's doing so well and they just don't tell people.
yeah, yeah. So the you mentioned some stats. So one of the ones that I like to throw out is, so like again, like to the hallucinations, and if people are acting out in public, and we could be sort of scared of them. We all talk about that sort of thing publicly. But if so, the stats are for violence. The people with schizophrenia, with treated schizophrenia, are no more prone to violence than the rest of the general population. So if the stats are roughly, and it's hard to define violence, it's a bit of not a gray area, but there's lots of aspects to it. There can be bar fights, kicking, biting, scratching,
Yeah.
psychological violence. It doesn't mean they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
There's sort of different levels in there, but
Well,
roughly,
you have what's called, I guess, normal, aspect, the yelling, the screaming because you're arguing with somebody.
yeah,
That doesn't mean they're going to physically harm you.
yeah. Yeah, so one stat is about 2% of the general population is violent. So yes, some people with treated schizophrenia can be in that 2%, just because they're in that's the ratio of the general population. So they've got treated schizophrenia, and they're also happen to be in that 2% who are violent, whether that's, hurting somebody badly, or like, the sort of more lower levels of violence.
Yeah.
The people with the BC British Columbia Schizophrenia Society says that people with untreated schizophrenia can be a bit more violent than treated schizophrenia, a bit more than that 2%. And I'm trying to figure out what that stat is. Yes, that is one thing. But for the most part, I mean, we're peaceful. We're people. So when COVID hit, and there's a group in the States called Students with Psychosis, and they have people with schizophrenia and psychosis, student advocates around the world, and they started posting Zooms, like a group shot of their Zoom. So I'd see like a photo of like 10, 15 people, students with schizophrenia or psychosis. And for the first time in my life, because they started posting all these photos of them, I saw people who had the same thing as me, because I never saw that for years and years and years. I didn't see people who had what I had. I knew a few people who had schizophrenia. This is before my advocacy days. I started advocating in 2018 more, but I didn't see them in movies, didn't see them in the media. I didn't see them, around town, because we're not loud and proud. We don't say, this, I've got this disease.
Right.
We've been hiding it for so long. And I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my gosh, we all looked like, we weren't these scary monsters with horns and forked tails. It's just like, they look like average university students. They all look different, like people do. We all look different, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's what we look like.
Yeah, I was going to say, with you coming out and advocating, you're probably one of what's called the rarity, the unicorn. Okay, but once again, as the years are getting more acceptable of this mental illness, more people will come out. Uh, just, and again, not to brag, I have it, but just to be aware that, look, I have it and I'm living a normal life as much as possible.
Yeah, I've found some T-shirts you can get online that say, schizophrenia awareness, that sort of thing. And on my website, I've got a list of other people, other schizophrenia advocates. But yeah, there's tons of mental health advocates, but not as many schizophrenia advocates. But like that 30% globally, like a lot of people do recover. They might just be scared to put themselves out there.
Oh yeah. I can
Yeah.
believe that too, because of how evil other people are. You got schizophrenia, then they're going to, harass and blast you just
Yeah.
because of. Yeah, I can see
So
that too.
So one of the things I want to do is make a video or a series of videos or like a portrait book showing pictures of people with schizophrenia and showing that, we're not all the stereotypical disheveled person on the sidewalk. Lots of us, we're in the workforce. A lot of us go to work and we're working with you in the workforce. We're all around you. It's
That's
like
right.
Men in Black, where are the aliens? We're right here.
That's right. Again, that goes back to, it surprised when you say 1%, the population, I still would have thought it'd been more. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, and
So
if people dig down deep enough, they know somewhere all of us have some type of mental illness. Okay. Whether it's depression, psychosis, you know, um,
we could all do
bipolar.
better.
Yeah, we all have something that we're going to fall into that mental illness label.
We could all do better with our mental health for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to tell people, because I don't hear it talked about too much, is that mental illness can be preventable. So even if you're saying, yeah, I'm fine, I go to work, I have my life, and I'm feeling fine. Well, maybe you could get even better than you are. Maybe you could improve yourself and take better care of yourself, whatever that looked like. And maybe, just maybe, doing that, you might be able to prevent a mental illness from coming at you later in life. And if you can prevent that, I'm telling you, it can be tough. There's different levels of, like, there's like more
Oh yeah.
milder forms of mental
Yeah.
illness and
Yep.
more
Yep.
severe. Mine was severe, but any kind. I mean, people say, Matthew, like, my pain isn't as bad as yours. Well, don't minimize your pain. Like, pain is pain. Like, I don't like getting a paper cut. It hurts.
That's
It
right.
hurts. Like,
That's
don't
right.
don't minimize that. So if you
Hey,
can
I tell
prevent,
people, the example I give, you talk about the paper cut. The example I give, what if we get up in the middle of the night, go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, but we stump our toe on the door jamb, and then we go to bed. For most of us, we're going to miss an hour of sleep because our throat is throbbing and hurting and miss an hour of sleep. But what if the person is a hemophiliac and they're bleeding now on the inside? What if they have that brittle bone disease? Now they've shattered that toe.
yeah,
So you don't minimize your pain. If it's pain that's affecting you, then it needs to be looked at seriously.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's I try to tell people, and the other thing, there's a whole field of psychology around this called positive psychology. Before, there's a great TED talk on it by Dr. Martin Seligman. It's called The New
Mm-hmm.
Era of Positive Psychology, and he says that in the olden days, psychologists tried to make miserable people less miserable, like, so to get them more to neutral. But he
There you
said
go.
it wasn't until the 90s that they started focusing on getting happy people even happier. It's called positive psychology. It was
Yeah.
came
Oh
out in
wow,
the
that's
90s.
awesome to hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
so
a,
you can
what a
pick them
what a
up.
term. What a term though. How to get
Yeah,
miserable people less miserable.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like the other one. I understand what they're saying, but look like you can come up with a better way to phrase that. And like the other one, happier people, more happier. So, hey,
yeah.
AJ, thank you for coming in, man. AJ, thank you for this. Hey, tell Brittany we said, hey, and I'm still trying to get both of y'all on my show. Y'all keep running from me. Quit running. Let's get you on here. All right. And you mentioned, Matthew, a TED Talk. I have applied for a TED Talk. TED Talk, get a hold of me so I can get on there. All right.
Yeah, I haven't been on a TED Talk myself. I've thought about doing it, but I haven't been on it. Yeah,
I would encourage you to take your story that would help other people So I encourage, like I said, I saw you written a few books. I would definitely write just your story. I saw you were co-author of other people, your story, no co-authoring, your story, because there's other people like you and they don't know
Yeah,
what to do. And you could use your story to help lift them up. So yeah, and if
yeah,
you get a chance, apply for TED Talk. TED Talk, I've applied. Get a hold of me. All right.
yeah. So, speaking of that TED Talk I saw with Martin Seligman, he said there's different ways to make yourself better, happy people happier. One of the biggest ways, though, is by philanthropy, helping other people, being of service to something larger than yourself, giving
Yeah,
back,
yes.
advocating.
Yes.
And he says that is the philanthropy, helping others, or the animals, or the environment, is the best predictor of long-term life satisfaction. There's things that can make you feel better in the short term that are good, like having hanging out with friends, that sort of
Yes.
thing. But a long-term fulfilling life satisfaction, and I can attest to that. Like I made my website mindaid.ca in 2018, and it's really, I mean, I get to do things like be on a podcast with you. you know,
There we go. And we're glad
it's
you're here.
you must feel great letting all these people tell all these things to the world as a podcast host. That must be a wonderful
This
feeling.
is part of my reasoning of starting this. People are tired of hearing me talk, and I try to give it to y'all as much as possible to share out to the world as much as we can do. So that's one reason. I mentioned earlier about what was some of your symptoms that made you look to go get help, and you said suicidal was part of it. The last part of it, and that's one reason I started my podcast. I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. Taking pills, sucking carbon monoxide out of the van in the garage. And someone found me on the third day, and I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. And living through my suicide attempts, I had to see a psychologist for a year. And he one advised me, for whatever reason, God didn't take you. You still have a purpose. Part of your mission may be helping other people. And so I went and wrote my book, got into public speaking, trying to help other people. And YouTube, and then eventually again, people got tired of hearing me. That's why I started a podcast to give the show to you.
Wow, wow, wow! What a story. I'm so happy you're still here, and
See TED Talk, see what I
yeah.
got to share. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel you. I hear you. It's the darkness is intense. It's like nothing I'd ever. My analogy for it is it's like being chased by a heat-seeking tornado. Life can just be that dark, and I try not to talk about it too much. I try to add light and positivity to the world when I can. But I do like to mention to people who haven't gone through mental illness to give them a bit more understanding and compassion for people going through it. Like it's tough, but at the same time, recovery is possible. Like you're not guaranteed anything in life. I was never guaranteed a full recovery ever.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'd ever get it. I didn't know where I would be for the rest of my life. It's very, very scary, that unknown. But but with treatment, the pain can come down to more manageable levels, and it may not totally go away ever, but it can come down, and you can get a lot out of life despite your disease. There's people who with schizophrenia who say, look, I still have symptoms, but like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm glad that I have schizophrenia, they say, because it's shown me so much more in life. There's a fantastic book called The Survivor Personality by Al Siebert, Siebert. And he studied how people got through the Holocaust, natural disasters, cancer, alcoholism, and how they thrived on the other side. And one of the things they said was afterwards was, their experience, that what they went through, they said was the worst thing they'd ever been through. They would never, ever, 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 ever want to go through it again. But, and a big but, they said that was the best thing that could ever have happened to them. They just turn it around and say, look, I'm so glad I've learned this from it and this. And people, it's called post-traumatic growth. It's a whole new field. It started in the 90s too with positive psychology at the same time, coincidentally. And I think coincidentally. And people, they go through these horrible things and get stronger. It's the old cliche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's a book on that. There's books on post-traumatic growth. One is called What Doesn't Kill Us by Stephen Joseph. And he says the way to get that growth is by reflective rumination. There's a downward spiral, negative, I'm doing awful, I'll never get out of this kind of rumination. But there's also a positive, let's try to figure this out, a processing, kind of put things together kind of rumination. And that's what I did through most of my recovery, was try to do that. And I mean, I don't know why I'm doing so well today. Yes, I got on the medication. Yes, I'm doing well. Yes, I try to do things for self-care. There's a lot of things I didn't do, but this rumination, this reflective rumination, was something that I felt really, I just had to do it. I'm like, I got to just sit down and try to figure this out here. That was just me. And it's, I don't know. I don't know if it's a chicken and egg thing, if it was a medication making me feel better, but every time I sat down and tried to sort of think through things in my head, I'd feel after my, like, whether it was 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, I'd feel a little bit lighter sort of emotionally, and my thoughts would be a little bit clearer. And all I know is I had to do that. I don't know if it's just the medication making me have those sort of better times after that 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, but I had to do it. I'm like, I got to sit down and just try to figure things out. And I've never read anywhere that reflective rumination is a treatment for schizophrenia. I'm just throwing it out there. I did it. I tried to, because with mental illness like addiction, or PTSD, the what you go through, the emotions, the intensity of them are so severe. It's like you just block them out. It's like you can't feel them. You become numb. You run away from them. Like with addiction, you take other things to run away from it. But there's a guy in Canada, and I'm sure there's other people in the world who do this now. He takes an decades old blood pressure drug called, I think, propranolol. His name's Alain Brunet. And he says this drug, in amazingly like 8 or 10 sessions, like 8 or 10 weeks, people can get rid of their addiction and can get rid of their PTSD. It also works with heartbreak. And the drug lets you feel your emotions and sit with them. So you're with a therapist, you take the drug, you probably a lot of crying, but after 8 or 10 weeks, it doesn't work for everybody. It works partially for some and not at all for others, but some people can be free in like a matter of weeks instead of a lifetime of suffering.
Yeah.
It's called, it's.
So I was going to say, you mentioned that, you wouldn't want to go through all this again, but you're glad you threw it because now you found out, one, how strong you are. Okay. And you made a comment about you don't know why this is happening, whether it's medication or whatever. Well, part of it is because you said it earlier, wanted help. That's why you went to the hospital. Okay. How many people are in that denial? Oh, I don't need to go get help. I can quit when I want to. Well, want to is never coming here. Okay. And I've had plenty of other guests. We talked about it before, that I'm a spinal cord injury. I would not pray for this to happen to anybody, get paralyzed and be in a wheelchair the rest of their life. But I am glad I've gone through it to make me see how better of a life has come out of it. And again, helping people. So yeah, same thing. You said the same thing. I've had other people say it too. They wouldn't wish it on anybody else. They wouldn't want to go through it again, but they're glad they did go through it.
Do you know Emma Benoit? She's a young girl, probably early 20s now. She has a movie called My Ascension, and she attempted suicide. She lived. She shot herself and became paralyzed, but she got a lot of her movement back. She still needs a wheelchair for like walking. She can walk small distances. But there's a movie about her. She's been on Dr. Phil. They're screening the movie across America, and it's phenomenal. She, like you said, like she's very grateful for her disease, for her injury, and it's just a remarkable story. And they're trying to bring up the topic of suicide and suicide prevention in communities around the world, really. So that popped into my head when you said about your,
I have to look her up, see if I can get her on my podcast. So
I'm sure she'd love that.
What was her name? Oh, can't think of her name. I had her on a couple of years. Actually, she was on my first 100 shows, can't think of her name, but she in the 7th grade was hit by, she got off the first day of school, got off the bus, and a car went around the bus and hit her, and she was totally paralyzed from her neck down. And she ended up going through finishing school, junior high, high school, and her mother went as her hands, her daughter's hand. So if the daughter knew a question and wanted to answer it, mom would raise mom's hand for her to answer the question, or mom's taking notes for her. And they ended up going to Harvard together, and she graduated, first quadriplegic to graduate from Harvard, and she ended up getting a doctoral degree. So I had her on, and she passed away last year, a year and a half ago. So so if we get this other girl you're talking about, be my second movie star on here, I think.
Wow.
That I know of, and I can't think of
That's a miracle mom.
Yes.
That's a miracle mom.
Yes.
Miracle mom.
And of course, dad had he had to be mom and dad while mom's at school. And they lived in New York and left, to go to Harvard. And so here, dad is being mom and dad with the other kids while mom is off with the other one. Can't think of her name. Oh, well. But she passed away. I was glad to got her on the show, but I was sorry to hear she passed away. So, and she was on, they did a movie on her on the Lifetime channel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I saw it years ago. And then when I was school teaching, whenever we have some time free, I'd let the kids see the show because of her.
Okay.
We would watch it. But yeah, can't think of her name.
It'll come to you tonight.
Okay. Yeah. When we're done with the podcast, it'll come to me. So, but yeah, I had her on. So I'd like to get a hold of this other girl just to go with that. So, all right, Matthew, I know you got things you need to get done here. And well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing. And I, again, would encourage you to write your book. Don't worry about co-authoring anybody else, your story, because again, that's going to hit it home with other people going through the similar situation. So
thank you. Yeah.
All right, Matthew, you go ahead and give your social media website again.
Yeah.
So people can get a hold of you possibly.
Yeah. So my website is mindaid.ca, mindaid.ca. It is the world's first website with all the groups helping people with mental illness in developing countries on one site. And I made that in 2018. And it's a simple curation site at its essence. The groups are scattered across the web. They're doing work. They've helped thousands of people get their mental health back in poor poverty, countries with poverty, and which is phenomenal. They use models of basic mental health care. So that's sort of my main thing, because my heart goes out to people with mental illness in like extreme poverty or war, because I went through mental illness in a developed country with a okay mental health system, but I felt like I was living in a war zone with just this disease. So my heart has always gone out to people who have a lot more things to tackle at the same time. All my social media is there on the website, and also I want to steer people towards there's a list of my best mental health tips. I spent many years reading books and scouring the internet on ways to get myself better, and I share the best things, the best nuggets on that site, on that page on my website, the mental health tips. Please go check it out. It's the quickest way into my brain for things that can help you. There's a wide range of topics, including schizophrenia there. And if anybody wants to hire me or to speak, that's one thing. But I'm also willing to speak at fundraisers for your organization. If you're wanting to raise money for a cause, I'm very willing to speak for it. A virtual fundraiser, if I can make it in person, I will. Virtual is probably easier at this time. But yeah, I would love to help you raise funds for your organization and tell my story. I've biked across Canada. I've got this MindAid website. I'm doing well with schizophrenia, and I would love to offer inspiration and hope to people.
All right, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And we'll put this information down in the show notes as well to make it a little easier for people to find you. So, all right, Matthew, appreciate you being here. Hey, we know people are hurting and struggling today, and if you can leave us with a positive message that help them get through today, to be a blessing, man.
You're capable of 20 times more than you think you are. And I'm not making that number up. The number is what Navy SEALs use in their training. When they're training Navy SEALs, creating these soldiers, turning them into these bulletproof minds, that's what they say. They take them to the brink of physical and mental exhaustion, and they say, I can't move another inch, I can't move another muscle, I'm done. I quit. I can't do this. And they say, you think you're done? Not only do you have 5% more or 10% more, you've got 20 times more than you think you do. And they say it's a somewhat random number, but it gets across the point you can keep going. And I know there's so many times during my recovery, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but just sit in there, sit in that uncomfortable, and just keep waiting, because things happen. Life just keeps happening. Things will work out. Things just keep working out if you just keep hanging in there. You don't know how they're going to work out, but they do. Somehow they just do. And I call it hope beyond hope. When you've lost hope, there's other things. The universe has your back. You may not feel it at all like it has your back, but it does, and it'll just keep hanging in there. Things will happen. I can't promise that, but you've got to keep trying. You just have to keep trying.
I had a friend that he said, you can go nearly 40 days without eating, nearly 4 days without water, but you can't go 4 seconds without hope. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. So my friend Bird, thank you for that information there, Bird. All right, Matthew. Thank you for being here. Everybody else, be sure to share this out. Somebody get some information here, and you may know a friend that could use some little help with this schizophrenia, and from there, and Matthew will show you how to help out. So everybody else, hey, I saw some bicycling across Canada, not once but twice, and wasn't there older, like in the 1970s or 80s, a guy named Terry Fox that had cancer and lost a leg, and he was trying to run across Canada for cancer awareness?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I grew up, I was there in 1980 when he was going across Canada. I was like 9 years old. So it's, he's still so talked about in Canada, a real icon, and he's done so much for cancer research, so much.
Yeah. So I remember that when I was younger. So,
yeah.
All right, Matthew, thank you, and have a blessed day. And everybody else, do something today, tomorrow, something next week. Going to help you persevere past your paralysis.